You are watching the 4.2 lesson video on solving real-life systems graphically. In example number 1, there were a couple things that were left off in the packet. And as you can see, I went ahead and I labeled my X and Y axis with number of adult tickets and number of student tickets. I also wrote out what each of those variables equals over here. This is something that I want to get into the habit of as we do these types of questions. So number 1 is a perfect example of something that you can reference. It tells you, where all the values are coming from. It shows you the equations. It shows a beautiful graph. It shows perfectly straight lines. It shows a point of intersection. It even shows you the answer at the bottom. It tells you it in the context as well. So this is just a wonderful example that you can reference if you're ever stuck on a system and you're not sure what to do, and maybe your work on the next page is less than stellar. But what I'd like to do with all of you is go through an example. So if we switch to page 9, is this really page 9? Yeah, it's really page 9. I know that some of you are like, oh my gosh, there's a question number 2. It's okay. We're going to leave it blank for now. If we have time, we'll go back to it. So here's question number 3. So Antonio, our dear friend Antonio, has 2 jobs. He's washing cars. He's going and works at Wegmans. He can't work any more than 20 hours per week, but he wants to make at least $90 per week. So what I'm noticing, and whenever I get a question like this, is I creep around and look for clues. I can see that they labeled my axes, X and Y. So right away, we know X is equal to the car wash hours and Y equals Wegmans hours. And you know what? I'm going to write it up here. X is equal to car wash hours. And then Y is going to equal Wegmans hours. Okay, so when I'm looking at the, oh my gosh, I can't talk and write at the same time. Let me just write the word hours so I don't spell things weird. Okay, here we go. Now, when I look up at the problem, I see that there's some information on here. They start talking to me about money, so I feel like there's going to be a money equation. So here's some money, here's some money, there's some money. Those are all connected. And then is there anything else like hours, 20 hours? So could it be that there's a money equation and an hours equation? I think there's total hours, right? So let's do total hours. What's the total hours? The total hours has to be less than 20. Okay, so how do I get total hours? Wouldn't I just add up the car wash and add up all the Wegmans hours and say that it has to be smaller than 20? Oh, car wash is X and Wegmans is Y. Oh, that's cool. So X plus Y has to be less than 20. And then we talked about there being a total money inequality. I think I called it equation. That was silly because it's not an equation. It's an inequality. So total money has to be what? Smaller? Oh, no, bigger. At least. Oh, at least. Isn't that the tricky one? So it has to be more than or equal to $90. Okay, so what? $5 per hour at the car wash, X, plus $10 per hour at Wegmans, Y. And there we have it. All right, now we've spent so much time graphing these by hand. Let's use our calculator to help us. So here I graphed, look at this. I mean, this is ridiculous. It is X plus Y is less than 20. And it looks like a big shaded area. Like, that's ridiculous. So what do I need to do? If you said change the scale, you're right. So I'm going to change this to at least 25. Okay, now we're talking. I also want to change this one, I guess, to at least 25. Now we're talking. So if I want to graph this, let's make sure we go into the menu, change the trace step to 1, and then let's get all the points. Menu, trace, graph trace. Okay, so that's the point 0, 20. I'm just going to go plotting these like crazy. 0, 20. I think it's this point all the way up here. And then what's the next one? 119, 218, and so on and so forth. Oh my gosh, this is super easy. So let's plot all these points. We're going to cover our whole graph. Then we're going to take out our straight edge, and we're going to connect them with a line. As I'm plotting all these points, I want you to think in your brains, What type of line are we going to have? Is this going to be a solid line or a dashed line? If you said dashed, you are correct. Now, first of all, you might say, oh, you could just hover over the line on the calculator and say, oh yeah, it's dashed. But what I'd really like you to think is, oh, it's a less than symbol, meaning it's not equal. So we're just going to dash this line all the way using our ruler. We're also going to label it, right? That's a big deal. We are not going to put arrows on the ends because we do not care about negative hours. And we are also going to shade below because of the less than symbol and because our calculator is showing us that as well. Next, let's graph 5x plus 10y is bigger than or equal to 90 bucks. Ooh, this is nice. Okay, so let's menu. Let's trace it. Graph trace. Oh, bummer. It took me to my other inequality. I'm just going to use a down arrow to get to where I want to be over here. And as you can see, that's kind of confusing. This is not, well, I can't move it. I don't know why I can't move it. But there it is. 0, 9 is my first value of my purple inequality. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if I move to the right, the next point will be 2, 8. And let's just follow that pattern because slope has the same pattern across the whole graph, which is just glorious. There you have it. Is this a solid line? It sure is because it is a greater than or equal to symbol. So if I used a ruler, it would be a lot straighter than that. Unfortunately, I can't use a ruler on this screen, but I tried my best. It looks terrible, but whatever. And am I going to shade above or below? Well, since it's going to be greater than a y value, and you can see that the blue is now being shaded above, let's just shade above. Notice how I'm not coloring it in like a crazy person. I am just shading these nice little lines. Is there a crisscrossing area? Is there a solution? Yes, there is. It's right in here. Let's draw a giant S. You could even put a few S's in there if you're feeling crazy. Did I label this? Oh my gosh, I didn't even label my purple inequality. Shame on me. Let's label it. 5x plus 10y has to be greater than or equal to 90. Okay, no arrows, shading, solid line that looks wavy even though it should be straight, and I feel like we're looking good. Let's read. Determine and state one combination of hours that will let him earn at least $90 per week while working no more than 20 hours. Basically what it's saying, find a point in the shaded region. You know what? I'm going to find this one right here. What's that? That's a point 110 it looks like. Some people want to leave this as their final answer. Boy, that is messy handwriting. So this is a point 110, which means 1 hour at the car wash. This is what's going to get us full credit. And 10 hours at Wegmans. So this is how, instead of just writing the 1 point, we will earn full credit on this question.